Hey guys, Arush here, and today we're talking about cells and organelles. And when you hear this word organelle, I want you to think of the root organ. Okay? And what organelle means is it actually translates to tiny organs. Okay? So just like inside of our body, we have different organs that work to keep us alive. Inside of every single cell, there are tiny organs that work to keep those cells alive. So let's take a look at inside of a cell and the organelles that are inside. So here's a brief rundown of the organelles that we're going to cover. We're going to cover the cell membrane, and commonly it's called the plasma membrane. You're going to hear that phrase quite often, but they both mean the same thing. Next, we're going to talk about the cytoplasm, the nucleus, the nucleolus, the smooth and rough endoplasmic reticulum, and ribosomes. Now, my goal is, by the end of the week, I should be able to give you guys a picture just like this, and you guys should have no problem identifying each organelle inside of a cell. That's the goal for the week, okay? And we'll show you how to get there, and you guys will be fine. So first, let's go over the cell membrane. We're going to start from the outside area and work our way in. So the cell membrane, or the plasma membrane, surrounds and protects the cell. So it's this outer layer, and I want you to think of the cell membrane would be similar to our skin. Okay, so it's the outer layer of the cell. It acts as a barrier. It separates the outside environment from the inside environment. Okay, and why does it do that? It's trying to maintain a balance. It's trying to make sure that everything inside of the cell is at a perfect homeostatic balance. And an interesting thing is the cell membrane is called semi or selectively permeable. Those both mean the same thing. Now, what does that mean? It means that small molecules such as water, oxygen, carbon dioxide can move in and out of the cell membrane. Larger molecules such as proteins cannot freely move in and out of the cell membrane. Okay, so small things like water or CO2 could easily move through the cell membrane. They could go inside or out of, okay, because they're very small. Larger things like proteins, they're too large to move straight through the cell membrane, okay? But for now, I want you guys just to know that some things can move through freely, such as water, oxygen, or carbon dioxide. Next, we have the cytoplasm. And the cytoplasm is a jelly-like substance. It's mostly made up of water and some proteins. Most metabolic activities take place here, so think of the enzymes that we talked about. Those enzymes are going to do a lot of their work inside of the cytoplasm. Now, why does this have a jelly-like substance? Well, if you guys have ever had a leftover roast, and you put it in the fridge, and then the next day you see this jelly-like substance, that's actually not fat. A lot of people think that it's all fat. Actually, what that is that's basically proteins mixed with water, because as you cook the meat, you're releasing proteins, and some water gets released, and that coagulates and makes this jelly-like substance. So when I think of the cytoplasm, I always think of this jelly-like stuff that we see on leftover meat. Okay, why does it do that? Because it's mostly water and protein, just like the cytoplasm is mostly water and protein. Next, we have the nucleus. The nucleus is the center portion inside of the cell, and it controls all the cell activities. Think of it as the brain of the cell. It's going to control what happens. Inside of the nucleus, in this area here, all of these coils that you see, that's all strands of DNA. Okay? So why is the nucleus important? Well, that's where eukaryotes store our DNA. Okay? If we look deeper inside of the nucleus, we have this center structure, and that is the nucleolus. The nucleolus, located inside the nucleus, makes ribosomes. Okay, so it synthesizes, and to synthesize means to make ribosomes. And we'll talk a little bit more about ribosomes in just a moment. Next, we have the rough endoplasmic reticulum. And if you guys want to abbreviate it, we could call it the rough ER for short. Okay? And you could always find the rough ER because it's always a continuation of the nucleus. So if you could always find a nucleus, find this circular structure, this dark circular structure in the center of a cell, the rough ER is always a continuation. Okay? It's always connected to the nucleus. So you could always find it. So why is it called rough? Well, if you look closely, you can see that the rough ER is studded with these little dots. And these little dots are ribosomes. Okay? What the ribosomes do that are on the rough ER is they make proteins. Okay? And a way that I think of the rough ER is I think of it as a studded jacket. I think of each of those ribosomes as a little stone on the jacket to give it that rough texture, that rough appearance. Okay? But what does the rough ER do? It makes proteins. Okay? The rough ER makes proteins. Now let's talk about the smooth ER. The smooth ER, or the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, is always connected to the rough ER. Okay? The structure here. And remember, the rough ER is always connected to the nucleus. Now, the smooth ER does not have ribosomes. It does not have those little the little studs on them. So I think of the smooth ER as a just regular leather jacket with none of those rhinestones on there, none of the stones. Okay. But what does a smooth ER do? The smooth ER synthesizes lipids. It makes fats for the cell. And another thing that it does is it also removes toxins. Okay. So you may have heard that your liver, an organ in your body, your liver, filters out toxins from your blood. And that's true. And the reason why your liver is able to do that so well is because each liver cell has lots and lots and lots of these smooth ER. Okay? So every liver cell has lots of these smooth ER to help filter out your blood and remove toxins. And they also create lipids. Okay? Next, finally, we're going to talk about the ribosomes. So the ribosomes are these little dots. Okay? Very, very, very small structures. What they're made out of, they're mostly made up of a type of RNA, okay, a type of nucleic acid, and some proteins. And they're where the proteins are synthesized, other proteins, okay? And you're going to find ribosomes in two locations. First, you're going to find them studded onto the rough ER, okay? And you're also going to find ribosomes free-floating in the cytoplasm, okay? So two locations. Rough ER, and in the cytoplasm. And let's do a quick recap. The first thing we talked about was the cell membrane, or the plasma membrane. What's unique about the cell membrane is it's selectively permeable. It allows some things to enter while it keeps other things out, such as water and oxygen. It allows small molecules to freely pass through, in and out. Larger molecules, such as proteins, cannot move through freely, okay? And that's the outer area of the cell. Think of it as the cell's skin. Next, we have the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is the jelly-like substance inside of the cell. Why is it jelly-like? Well, it's mostly made up of proteins in water, and it gives it this thick texture, this thick, kind of like Jello. The cytoplasm is also where most metabolism occurs, most metabolic reactions. Next, we talked about the nucleus. The nucleus is basically where all the DNA is stored. Okay, so all of this would be the DNA. And if we look inside of the nucleus, we have another structure called the nucleolus. What the nucleolus does is it creates ribosomes. Okay, those small, tiny little structures on the rough ER and floating in the cytoplasm. They're all made in the nucleolus. Next, we have the rough ER. The rough ER is a continuation of the nucleus, and it is studded with ribosomes to give it that rough appearance. What it does is it makes proteins. Next we have the smooth ER, which is also connected to the rough ER. It does not have ribosomes, so it has that smooth appearance. And what the smooth ER does is it creates lipids and removes toxins. And lastly, we have ribosomes. Ribosomes are found both free-floating in the cytoplasm and attached to the rough ER. What ribosomes do is they create proteins. Okay, so all the other slides I want you guys to take notes on. This last slide, I would like for you guys to give a quick sketch and label all the different organelles that we've covered so far. There's a few more that we're going to go over, and we'll add those in there, okay? But that is the end for now, and I'll catch you guys next time.